very interesting topic. Our topic is that basically business taking the direct to customer route. And my purpose of moderating this panel would be to give each speaker, they all are people who have done this unthinkable task in the business atmosphere post-pandemic. And they will bring insights, how they have reached out to customers directly, how they have negotiated this entire choppy thing, avoiding the retailer and the wholesaler in the process, and what kind of technology platform you used, and how pandemic was a catalyst or a motivator. I will also share a few stories in legal sector because we represent a lot of startups, and direct to customer companies are mostly into the startup category at present. And they all have taken innovative solutions to regulatory regime also. And most of our learning has happened with the younger law students who have joined these companies as co-founder or as a partner, and that has really shaken the entire legal industry and regulatory industry also. So I'll share some of those ideas. I will start the panel with Malika, and you are next to me. And Malika, you talk about your toxin-free products, which are something where huge movement is happening, and a lot of bigger companies are also there for you to be challenged. How this journey had been in last 2-3 years, and how you are reaching out to customers directly.
So, you know, we started the company about 7 years back, and as soon as, and we were consistently growing. So we were one of the largest growing, fastest growing D2C companies. And what happened was, so it was growing very well, and then the lockdown hit. And when the lockdown hit, all of us went down to saying that, how do we survive, right? Because it was not just, the environment that was changing, but also all the enablers for D2C were also impacted, right? Like transportation got impacted. There were questions which were unanswered for a lot of people. But fortunately, as luck may have it, it was a space where India did not just see growth, but saw hyper growth at that point of time. Because especially in the space of online, because everything moved to shopping online. And that was like a huge catalyst for us in kind of capturing onto the market. Because as consumers were moving online, and the bigger, larger FMCG companies who were also catering for the similar set of products were not absolutely ready for online at that point of time, because their focus was always retail. I think it just gave us a chance to be super agile, to be super quick in kind of capturing the market. So I think it was a great space at that point of time. What online and D2C allows you to do, which is very different, is that, what you can do is you can pick up certain niches of products, right, which are very unique and have a very unique proposition to itself. And then make sure that that proposition reaches out to a larger set of audience, and you can build an audience for yourself. So when we started in 2017, the toxin-free products, it was a term that nobody knew of, right? India was just getting used to, and there was, of course, certain amount of doubt people had in larger brands, but people did not know what toxin-free worked, right? And if you go back and see in time, 5 years from now, everybody is looking for toxin-free products. If it's not toxin-free, people don't buy the purchases. Why could we do it? We could only do it because we had the medium online to have the communication. It was also the same time that India saw a huge growth in mobile penetration across the country. As mobile penetration increased, more and more people came online, we could tell our stories. And we could tell our stories for cheap, which was really important, because the traditional mediums of media are very expensive. TV is very expensive. Radio, your newspaper, advertising, everything was very expensive, right? And there we had access to Facebook, we had access to Instagram, we had access to Google. And we could create cohorts of smaller set of people whom we wanted to target and reach out to and tell them our stories. And that got us the first set of adopters. And from then, of course, as I always say, product is always the king. So your focus on product has to be really high. And when the product was good, people adopted. And that's how the story of growth unfolded for us. So for me, if you plan to go D2C, having a very strong differentiated proposition of your product is superbly important. And a very strong focus on customer care. Because what we don't realize is, I remember, I'll quote this example very early on. We had some really big celebrities who would buy purchases from us. And I still remember a conversation I had with one of them where they checked and said, is it safe to put in my credit card details on your website, right? So we're also a space where we are trying to battle beliefs saying that it's not safe to put in our details. We have come a long way for it, but that's where customer care comes very important, right? And those were the two things that really helped us to grow.
Yeah, thank you, Malika, for these initial observations. And Nitin, I'll come to you as the next. And today you are on the hot seat also because excise policy, drinking in Delhi today is a major issue. You know what has happened. And this is a very different kind of sector. And you started in 2019. At that time, it was just before the pandemic. Mixology, cocktails, ready to drink premium category. How do you reach out to customers directly? And what was the pandemic story about it?
See, actually, we started as a not a D2C first. We started as an offline first brand because we wanted to be like a traditional FMCG companies. But then when we, in 2019, we were just experimenting only in Gurgaon. And then when we started to, take our route up, and then pandemic happened. So we had to, taken a route of D2C. So being into a market, so we were creating something niche, like a cocktail category. So in India, you already mentioned that it's a very different, because every state behaves like a different country itself because of the excise policy of for different states. So what we have chosen that let's taken the alcohol part out of our product and give that option to the consumer of their choice of alcohol to mix it with our drink. So we are being as a non-alcoholic company, but we are playing in a field of cocktails, like we are a mixing brand, made for mixing brand. So it is a completely non-alcoholic, so no excise policy, nothing.
So you can mix it with Ruafza, or you can mix it with Absolute?
You mix it with alcohol only, but it's your choice.
Right, but if non-alcoholic I want to do, I can do that also.
No, it's, if you want to choose it as a non-alcoholic, it's a mocktail only. It's a RTD.
Right.
So you can actually pour it with ice and have it as a mocktail only. So it's a mocktail, and if you want to make it cocktail, you just add your choice of whiskey.
Which are your top 3 states where people are so fond of cocktails?
See, Bangalore is #1, Delhi NCR is #2. So all like where people live, like all the metro cities are key driver for us.
Key driver for you. Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Good initial observations, and we'll go into more interesting discussion on this. And Priyanka, I'll ask you, you are an IIM graduate, and you have come from healthcare sector to ensuring people sleep better. And everybody who travels to hotels across the world really knows that pillows and mattresses play such a huge role now, even deciding the tariff of a hotel. How did you think about it, and how you're going about it? What did you do during the pandemic?
Absolutely. Thanks, Udi. So, firstly, we were literally a baby born just before COVID, right? We started in October 2019, and in like literally 5 months, COVID hit us, right? So I came, as you said, I've spent almost a decade with Procter & Gamble, and that's where I realized my love for consumer brands. And if you read the facts, how did the sleep company happen? Sleep globally is becoming a very difficult thing to get. Something so important is becoming so difficult. India is the second most sleep deprived country. Japan is the most sleep deprived country. Today we're present in both, right? I think for us the intent was, when I became pregnant, I suddenly realized that I think most of the mums can correlate that the thing that you don't get is sleep. And that's when this sector struck me that, India as a country is far behind versus any country like US or Europe in terms of the quality of products that we have, right? And I think that's where we became obsessed. We started R&D, and I'll pick one line that Malika said, and I think that's what I learned in my 10 years of career with Procter & Gamble, that if you create a product that truly solves some consumer gap, right? I think that's the way to build long-term sustainable brands or businesses, right? And I think we started work, we did R&D for almost 2 years, and we developed something that we call Smart Grid. It's something that we have patent granted across multiple countries. Right, and I think what D2C gave us or digital gave us is you don't need to be Unilever or P&Gs to actually test a product and see if consumer likes you, right? Or if you can build a brand. Digital gave you the power to new companies, new age, founders to literally put something online, be it Amazon, be it your Shopify website, just put something online and see if consumers like the product. And I think that's what we did, right? We launched our product, we are digital first. We launched our product on Amazon, we launched our product on our website, and being close to the consumer is very, very, very important. Literally, I attended every single call that came in the first 6 months. Today also, I talk to consumers, right? And I think that's how we started the journey.
But more importantly, जैसे कि होता है mattresses में, हम लोग को भी जब खरीदने भेजा जाता था, mothers भेजती थी अभी भी, so वो जाके feel करके आओ कि उसमें क्या है, जूट है या cotton है या कुछ. How you are dealing with the experience part of it?
Yeah, so
this is not something you can see and just decide.
Absolutely right, Sudhir. And if you see, that's where the consumer behavior, one drastically changed and one still the same, right? 80% of the people, or more than 80% of the people, still shop offline because touch and feel is important, right? Second, this category I think of, is becoming, people shop for mattresses the way they shop for their phones. They literally research for weeks. Exactly. They want to know what goes inside the mattress. They want to know how many layers, what's the material, what's the density, right? I mean, in our parents' generation, we didn't even know what brand we were sleeping on. It's changed completely. So what we did, and I think maybe one of the very few brands that started Omni very fast, 6 months back, because of the touch and feel, we were digital first. We started opening our own experience centers. But what we wanted to make sure we're still D2C. We didn't want to bring in the retailer or the distributor because we're obsessed with ensuring that the consumer experience is seamless. It doesn't matter you buy me from my website or from my store, next door. The experience needs to be the same. And I think that's the power of the D2C brands that they can deliver, right? So today, within 6 months of our Omni journey, we've got around 18 stores already live. And I think, long way to go, I think, but make sure that we can make not just India sleep better, but the world sleep better.
Just before you, just imagine in one house, I remember my own house, my father will have a very hard mattress. My mother will have the same because of no choice and that generation. In my generation, me and my wife have different preferences. So you have two mattresses.
So we've got a couple mattress, If your wife likes it hard and you like it soft,
exactly,
you buy it.
It's such a difficult category. I'm so amazed.
But very, very exciting. As I said, sleep is becoming a big problem globally.
Absolutely.
And which lead to a lot of disorders, right? So I think that's, our vision. We want to.
It's also pillows are part of it, or?
Oh, absolutely. Anything which is about comfort, sleeping or sitting comfort, is what we've got.
Wonderful. Well said. Samyesh, today I saw a Twitter post by MBA Chaiwala that he's now coming up with packed tea also. So, are you expecting coffee to follow?
I mean, I think we've been saying this for a long time. We don't need the competition, but it's a big market, and it's going to be fun to have as many people as there can be. For us, I think the key differentiator is, though we're a coffee company, it's these small innovations that we keep building on, which we try and monopolize from time to time. We haven't done justice to what we've built and monopolized on it totally. But I think the big differentiator for us is there's going to be something different every now and then, and we're positive we'll be able to monopolize on one of them in a big way.
So this nitrogen infused coffee, internationally you have a separate glass for that, which is 0 calories or something in most of the Starbucks or other outlets you get. Even in India it has started happening. So in your packaging, you say something about that. You want to talk about it? Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think what you're talking about is a nitro coffee can. Yes. We currently are the only people in the country to have a nitro coffee can. But where you're mixing this up is between the brew bags and the cans. Our brew bags are also nitro flushed. It's because other than reaching out to new consumers, we also felt retention in this market was very important. It's a very sticky market. You generally don't change the coffee that you have very easily. So our product had to be the best when we went out there. And it was packed in zero oxygen. It was nitro flushed before it was packed. And we saw the best people in the industry come and try and manufacture with us. In fact, they continue to manufacture with us. So I think a large part of it in our business is the retention.
So what do we drink more, coffee or tea?
We're still predominantly a tea drinking nation,
yes.
but if you see how the new generation is drinking their beverage of choice, I think coffee is catching on very, very quickly. We're growing at an 8.5 CAGR, so this is probably going to be a market of choice when you see this 10 years later.
Yeah. Thank you. Rahul, you will talk
Right.
about logistics. Logistics became a very critical factor during the pandemic. So what was your journey? When did you start? And what is the disruption factor in your company?
So the company actually started way long back in 2013, and it had its own course of journey where it was like a typical bootstrap company. It started small. It continued to be small, where the founders were pretty much invested in the company, but they were running it more like a side gig, okay? It was pandemic that actually showed them what the business they are into. And that's when they really got very serious about it, and they really upped their game. And pandemic got us to see a growth like never before. That's exactly what everyone has been talking about. So what we do is help all the D2C guys make their product reach the end consumer wherever they want to reach. Unfortunately, as any market matures, there are dozen a dime courier companies, logistics aggregators, everyone keeps getting added to the whole kitty, right? So very soon there is no differentiation, and obviously it becomes a price war because D2C consumer wants to just pamper the consumer, right? It's not about what we are missing right now is, and that's the point that I would want to bring to discussion is direct to consumer is a way of doing business, right? You eliminate the retailer, but actually, obviously retailer had a role to play in terms of consumer experience. I feel logistics can actually make good for that by creating an experience. So when Priyanka told about her journey where in last 6 months how they opened 18 stores to give an omni-channel strategy, the fact of the matter is 0 to 18 is one journey, 18 to 180 is going to be tougher, and 180 to 1800 is going to be even tougher. I think that's where I think logistics partners can actually become the enablers of experience. That's where we are.
Wonderful. Alokji, I'll come to you. You are a veteran. You understand. First, your company's name is very innovative. 40 per beat. And so what's this all about? What's your journey like? You left a very cushy job and started this whole thing. You're a TED speaker. What's your entire journey? What's this company all about?
So the answer to your first question is, so any sales guy would tell you that the route that sales guy follows through the day is called a beat, and 40 is the norm. Yeah, so he's supposed to do 40 outlets. We do 20 outlets, but it's an age-old name, so therefore 40 per beat. Did I leave cushy job? Yeah, I did. And sometimes you have to do what you have to do. So 40 per beat fundamentally takes brands offline. We have a plug-and-play sales team and a distribution network that, young brands, I mean, there have been a lot of conversations about, online playing a significant role. But the fact is that even today, 95% of the business is offline. Yeah, and that's where the meat is, and that's where I think he spoke about the journey of, from 0 to, let's say, 50 to 100, and then beyond, right? So there's a point when you need to get into offline, and how do you do it? We can help because we can operationalize those costs, give you scale distribution. The vision at 40 per beat is that ultimately we want to give a network to our partners that covers 30% of FMCG. So, and offer them a sales team which is pretty much the same quality that any large FMCG would have. same processes, same systems, similar quality, and really give them execution that they need. So that's really for Beat.
Wonderful. So we'll go to the next segment, and I think it would be the final. So when the pandemic happened, my own understanding, which I promised you earlier that we'll talk a little bit about it, being a medium-sized firm, we were working with companies like Thick Shake Factory, Healthcare at Home. These all were like strong tech and direct-to-customer. Like Healthcare at Home was a direct-to-customer in a very different kind of setup. And the pandemic gave them a wing, which completely changed the way they were doing their business. But one thing which was a huge learning, that unlike our large customers, large clients who had a team of, say, 1,000 people in an infrastructure project or a power company or energy company, the kind of agileness which a tech-based direct-to-customer company had shown during the pandemic was phenomenal. Even working out on the contracts and everything, I think they were more prepared for a pandemic than any kind of other offline companies which are like going through the process of retailer, wholesaler, government, negotiations. And so now it is almost clear that we have not gone through a V curve, or we have come through much stronger than any assumption of any country, any parameter, so far the financials of this country is concerned. How much role, Malika, the customer has played in India? We have talked about companies being resilient. We have talked about startups being resilient. What is the reason for this robust recovery which India had? And because that's what we are talking about, that direct to customer. So what is the typical, your own analysis of Indian customer, that is price conscious, he understands the product, he wants to adapt like to your kind of product. What is the Indian customer? How different he is from a Pakistani customer, Sri Lankan customer, a London customer, or a typical European customer?
I think the genesis of the question lies in the fact that India is in a very high growth phase. We have one of the largest growing GDPs in the world, and a huge catalyst to that is digitalization. And what the Indian consumer has shown the agility to adapt digitalization, right? Like, I was just reading a report lately which said that how many villages in the country today have access to internet. When you have that access is where you can enable D2C companies, right? Because we sell online. And if the online penetration in the country is really low, there is no way any of us is going to reach at any amount of scale, right? Having said that, we are still a country which is coming to terms with its own payment terms, right? So adding details, like subscription is not something that India has really caught up to. We are still trying really hard, but that's not really happened as much. If you see, as soon as the pandemic finished, there's this huge term and conversation happening on omni-channel as an approach. And that's largely come because the consumer has moved back to offline, right? Like the impact and the feel, and the touch and feel of the product that everybody talks about is still something that India relies on. And there's this huge element of trust. Like, I'm not sure if this will get shipped to me. If this comes broken, then what do I do about it? Like, whom do I reach out to? Will the customer care be responsive enough or not? Which is why I mentioned even initially saying that it's very important for a D2C firm to gain customer trust. Because we don't have the ability to do the touch and feel offline. And I think the next wave of D2C brands need to solve for something which is figuring out how do you create retail experiences online, right? So if I had to give the same feel of touch and feel by not actually giving you the touch and feel of the product, how does it translate? Which is where now tech is coming into picture, right? So for instance, in the product space, in the skincare space, you've got tool analyzers that you can come online, and it will replace your, the business person associate who's selling the products to you offline. So you do your face analysis, it'll tell you what problems you have and what is the right recommendation for you on the product, right? Which is again going back to the space of customization. How do you translate the offline experience online is where it is going to be. But to answer your question, the Indian consumer is ready because the access and the base that the government is setting up for you also with digitalization is really, really high. The focus is superbly high. So I think we're only going to see growth in that space.
Nitinji, Bihar, Gujarat, these places also we sell?
Yes, we sell. We sell a lot. when we started our D2C channel, what we found that 40% of our, so we have sold our product to 400 cities across India, while we are focusing offline only in 50 cities. But what we found that all the 40% contribution was coming from the tier 2 cities, because people are really, you know, experimenting a lot. And that's how, you know, we have a very, you know, growth, you know, opportunities lies here in these space. And we also, you know, tech enable in offline sales, and we found that our secondary sales and tertiary sales are happening there, even in Gujarat. So Ahmedabad is almost like in top 15 cities out of 50 cities. So that's how it's working there.
You can buy it there and take it to Diu actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Priyanka.
No, Sudhir, I fundamentally believe India is a consumption economy, right? If you see, you know, our retail business is pegged around $700 billion, right? Expected to be around 2 trillion in the next 7-8 years, right? And you know, that's where, so if you see consumers, Indian consumers, like I think any other country, right? One, are demanding. All consumers across the world, I like to believe, are demanding. They want products that are customized for them. And that's where I think, you know, it gave a platform for D2C brand during COVID to serve that unmet need. Right? Third, I think, you know, because we are a huge country and, you know, with multiple states, cities, etc., people, the tier 2, the tier 3 people are really brand deprived, right? It's not that they can't afford it, right? It's not that they're price conscious, right? I think that's a myth. I think every product is about, are you worth paying money for? It's not about what is your absolute price point, right? And that's what fundamentally I think is true for every consumer. Doesn't matter it's Indian or non-Indian, right? That's where, you know, we've seen very similar things. Today, more than 45% of our business actually comes from tier 2, tier 3 onwards, right? Even though we like, you know, king size mattress at 25,000, one could tell me how can people afford that? No, it's not about that. Everybody wants to sleep better, right? They are sleep deprived. They want good products. They want good brands. And I think that's what we all need to realize. Don't think that your products are only centric for the top metros, right? You need to think what is the product you're offering and, you know, who's your consumer, and the consumers are staying everywhere in the country. Doesn't matter it's Bangalore or it's you know, it's a small village in Bihar, right? People want good brands and good products wherever they are.
Aspirational, actually.
Absolutely aspirational, right? And for everyone, the aspiration could be the next level, right? So I think that's what we need to, as brands, we're consumer brands, so we need to keep consumer in the middle of it, and we need to fulfill the demand. Doesn't matter where the consumer is. Right? I think
Samyesh?
I think carrying on from where she left it, consumer demand in tier 2, tier 3 cities is increasing a lot more for every one of us, and I think the aspirational value of a product in tier 2, tier 3 cities is a driving factor for that. And even though we build for metros, sometimes your sale does come in a lot more from tier 2, tier 3 cities.
Rahul?
Yeah, I feel this whole concept where India is really going to get benefited because D2C brands are going to ensure that Bharat gets what it never saw in past. Yeah, that's where the mantra is. Because I think D2C brands, what they have done is they have really accelerated the whole process of adoption of new products like never before. So that's going to...
I will ask you a very pointed thing. Like in Banaras, there are certain vegetables, I come from there, certain vegetables are there which are so perishable that you can't survive them even if you bring them in train.
Correct.
And these are, or like a particular variety of banana, which is in Hajipur in Bihar, which is very small and very good for health. How is something happening in these products also? They are coming to bigger cities through better logistics?
For sure, for sure. In fact, we have a client in Kisan Connect. What they promise is whatever that was plugged yesterday, it is going to get served today.
My God.
It's like now.
Because the roads are phenomenal. I'll just give you one example, something for everybody. That just 20 days back, I had to attend a function, and I was told it's 480 kilometers. It's on Bundelkhand highway. So I was very apprehensive. It will take one overnight stay. Maybe I'll have to stay. I took Yamuna Expressway, I took Lucknow Expressway after that, and finally I came to Bundelkhand Expressway. I reached, and I drive quite slow. It was a Innova, so 5.5 hours I reached there. I attended that Teravi thing, and I started back after 2 hours. I could sleep peacefully in the night in Noida where I stay. Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
Like 300 kilometers used to take 10 hours 10 years back.
In fact, I promise you, this is, after 3 years, you will be saying this is the slowest trip I had.
Maybe.
It is going to become only faster from here on.
it was a shocker.
Absolutely.
It was
Yeah,
a shocker that kind of highways we are making now. Yeah,
I'll tell you my personal experience. I was in Rishikesh some time back, and we had one of the guys who was attending the yoga session.
Yes.
That guy was Shetty, okay? And everyone just bullied him that, why don't you cook sambar for us one of the days in an ashram. I'm not kidding. And the guy got so sentimental about that, I'm going to cook it. And he actually called his wife from Chennai. She was in Chennai, and she actually couriered those bangan. I don't know what is so special about those bangan, but she couriered it. And we managed to get everything there. Now, this is exactly what you were talking, right?
This is unbelievable.
It's a real life thing, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, I have a funny story to tell on this.
Yes, please.
I was in a town called Noor Mahal, which is in the interiors of Punjab. Yeah, 30,000-40,000 pop strata, about an hour and a half ahead of Jalandhar. And I saw cat food imported in an open format outlet, and this young couple in shorts and pedal pushers were going and shopping with a cart. That's Noor Mahal, 40,000 pop strata. The fact is that in every town, there is this one cluster that operates like a metro city. The trick is in filtering and reaching those right clusters. I mean, if you go to an Agra page 3, you will see Louis Vuitton. They're getting it from somewhere. In a Noor Mahal, if cat food can sell, then a lot of the brands from a lot of the founders sitting here are way more massy. So there is a market out there, there is a consumer,
absolutely,
and there is demand. The trick is, how do you reach them? And as Malika alluded to, omni-channel, that's the play.
Wonderful. So our time is up actually, but we will ask few questions. Anybody has a question from the panelist? Yeah, please. In the back and then 2 questions. Do kara lo. Okay, one there and then here the pink shirt.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have been talking about consumers a lot, you know, the metrosexual consumer who is living in a big city and who is buying products to impress the population, you know, to boost his self-image. And, you know, D2C brands, most of the D2C brands are not selling products which are necessary. For example, expensive beauty products or expensive coffee. So these are not the products which...
What is your question?
So the question is, what happens when these people realize that, you know, the products that we are buying are not necessary for us? First of all, the first question is, should they realize basically that, you know, expensive beauty product is not something which I need? And if they realize, then what will be the next step of these brands?
In fact, on the contrary, I feel that at least D2C brands have ensured that the consumer, whatever that they really want, those products start getting made. Instead of just mass production happening and everything getting dumped to the consumer. For the first time, consumer is getting choice. It's the other way around, I feel. If anyone else has some other point.
Also, I'll add to that, right? Like the Indian consumer currently has a lot of disposable income, right? And everybody is looking out for really high quality products. So to answer your question, there's a huge demand for those products, which is also the reason why most of the companies right now have seen those high growth phase, right? Like India has seen a very steep growth and interest in the segment very recently. Startups are a very recent phenomenon, just about 10 years old. And that started just because of the fact that there was a need and an unmet need for that Indian consumer who has a large amount of disposable income, is exceptionally particular of what they want to use, but does not have access. So, you know, and it's all about creating access for them. You know, when we started the company, I particularly thought that the first adopters in the company are going to be the ones who have typically imported products from outside. Because logical, right? You're importing and I'm giving you a local variant, which is an alternative to an international brand with just exactly the same quality or better, probably. And what was most surprising for us was they were not the first adopters. There was this huge segment of population which wanted similar products but did not travel every year or every 6 months to make their purchases. They were all the first adopters of the product. So it's a huge market for all sorts of products, which is also the reason why customization, products which are with a very different TAM altogether are also getting sold.
Thank
and
you.
again, a huge market.
Yep. I'm so sorry we are absolutely out of time. So thank you for this amazing discussion. I'm really thankful. Thank you.